federal.
Okay.
I'm trying to get home. I got my boys with me.
Who do you work for?
DHS.
Do you have your ID with you?
The following story is based on real-life criminal cases. Some names, details, and events have been altered for privacy and dramatic purposes. While every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, certain information may not be factually verified. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Some of these cases remain unsolved to this day.
The roadside encounter of Scott Thomas Deiseroth. Good day, and welcome back to mysteris. This report examines an incident recorded in the Florida Keys involving an individual identified as Scott Thomas Deiseroth. According to investigative records and available footage, Deiseroth was stopped by deputies on suspicion of driving under the influence, with his children present.
Sorry, you got real dark tint. Hello. So Scott, where are you coming from?
Miami down here to Isla Mirada and then back.
So you're coming from Miami to Isla Mirada and then you're going back to Miami?
Yeah, I live in Miami.
The incident drew public interest because Deiseroth presented himself as a law enforcement officer during the encounter, specifically identifying with immigration enforcement. The situation escalated when signs of impairment became a central focus of the roadside investigation. Please, before we continue, do not forget to like and subscribe, as support ensures that factual reporting and careful documentation of legal cases remains available for viewers seeking clarity and accuracy. The incident began during late hours on a roadway in Monroe County.
Lane,
Yeah.
are we really doing this right now?
Sir, I'm just asking you a simple question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Okay, you may begin.
To public understanding of the event, particularly regarding Deiseroth's demeanor and statements throughout the stop. During the initial exchange, Deiseroth identified himself as a law enforcement officer, referencing his affiliation with federal immigration enforcement. This information was delivered to the deputies in a tone that suggested expectation of recognition or accommodation. The deputies acknowledged the statement, but continued with the standard procedures required during a suspected driving under the influence stop. Law enforcement protocol dictates that professional courtesy cannot override legal obligations, particularly where public safety is concerned. Reports indicate that the deputies noticed indicators commonly associated with alcohol impairment. These indicators, as documented, included slurred speech, unsteady balance, and the scent of alcohol. When questioned, Deiseroth's responses were not consistent in clarity or coherence.
Okay, we could do that in a minute. But the other reason why I think you're impaired is just the way you're walking. You were kind of stumbling.
The discussion extended into repeated explanations of his professional role and his personal circumstances, but the deputies maintained their focus on the task at hand. The sobriety testing process continued roadside. Field sobriety tests are structured assessments intended to evaluate physical coordination and cognitive processing. These include balance-based tasks, directional response tasks, and visual tracking evaluations. Body camera footage showed difficulty in completing these tests successfully. Instructions were repeated multiple times, but the outcomes remained consistent with impairment. Throughout the interaction, the deputies maintained a steady tone, instructing and documenting in accordance with procedure. Meanwhile, Deiseroth repeatedly referenced his professional background. The footage captured statements in custody. The children were removed from the vehicle and placed under appropriate protective care in accordance with department policy. This case underscores a recurring issue encountered in law enforcement interactions. The burden of responsibility carried by individuals who work within the justice system.
Okay. Lane, you really me, man.
Professional training emphasizes public safety, legal compliance, and accountability. When an individual associated with those responsibilities is recorded in circumstances suggesting personal legal violations, public response often intensifies. The expectation of adherence to the law is highest among those tasked with enforcing it. The footage release provided material for legal review, public discussion, and media analysis. Commentators noted the tension observed in the encounter, both in Deiseroth's attempts to frame the situation through his law enforcement identity and in the deputies' steady adherence to protocol. These dynamics created a contrast between perceived authority and actual legal accountability. The incident also prompted renewed examination of stress factors associated with law enforcement work. It has been documented in various professional studies that individuals working in high-pressure enforcement environments face elevated stress levels, which may contribute to off-duty behavioral risks. However, such factors are contextual rather than exculpatory. Legal accountability remains unaffected by occupational background. Following arrest procedures, the case proceeded into the legal system. Documentation included body-worn camera footage, officer statements, chemical test results, and procedural records. The evaluation of impairment levels, child safety considerations, and professional conduct elements all contribute to the range of charges and penalties potentially applicable. Community response to the footage reflected concern. Cases involving potential endangerment of minors frequently draw public scrutiny. The additional dimension of a claimed law enforcement affiliation added a further layer of public interest, prompting discussions regarding the responsibilities held by federal enforcement personnel even when off-duty. The deputies involved in the stop received acknowledgement for adhering to constituted procedure. Their handling of the situation demonstrated the operational expectation that all individuals are subject to the same legal standards, regardless of background. This aspect of the case was cited by some observers as a reinforcement of public trust in local enforcement conduct. The footage continues to be referenced by legal analysts due to its clear depiction of protocol-driven law enforcement conduct in contrast with an individual attempting to negotiate based on perceived shared professional identity. These scenarios are studied for training purposes, reinforcing the principle that no situational familiarity or professional affiliation can override legal obligation. As the legal process moves forward, the outcomes will depend on court evaluation, sentencing considerations, and any mitigating or aggravating factors presented. The case remains an example of how legal accountability applies uniformly, emphasizing both the procedural consistency of law enforcement and the legal protections extended to minors in potentially dangerous situations.